Hello, my name is John Rose. Welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to take a closer look at where we are, where we came from, how we got here, and how to get back to where we need to be in relationship to our traditions. Now, I've already done several videos on traditions, and I'll put links down below to those videos. You see, traditions is the key to understanding where we are today. Most of us start our journey off on the wrong path in the negative A box of false knowledge because of our traditions. And that allows us to make mistakes in the second stage of knowledge, and where we end up with all the problems that we have right now in the third stage of knowledge, in the dark ages, where we literally have hundreds of thousands of problems that are 100% within our control. So once again, we start our journey off in life on the wrong path, in Plato's cave with false knowledge. That's what allows us to make the mistakes, and that's why we are in hell. And this represents the fall of mankind. Now, I want to emphasize that the way we got here is not the way we go back. We can't go back the way we came. And since we cannot go back the way we came, it really doesn't matter. And yet, when we talk about the fall of mankind, people keep wanting to go back to those topics. And again, it doesn't matter. That's not what's important at this stage. It's important, but not now. In order for us to get back, in order to understand how to get back, we have to have directions. Got good news for you guys. I got a map, and it's two maps in one. First map is going to help us get out of the hell we're in, out of Plato's cave. And it begins by understanding that we don't want to start with false knowledge anymore. And again, that relates to our traditions. Now, for the longest time, I put traditions as our number one source for false knowledge. I got really philosophical about this when I discovered it 28 years ago. And I started asking why, because that's my personality. I'm a why guy. I ask a lot of why questions. You know, why don't we know this information? And then when I read Socrates and he said the problem of knowledge is the key to all of our problems, I got really excited because I already had made a list of problems of knowledge, knowing that at the top was ignorance. We don't have it, but then there are reasons why we don't. And now I have a total of 21 main problems of knowledge. 2 forms of ignorance. We don't have knowledge we need. We have false knowledge in its place. And then there are 19 obstacles or 19 reasons why we don't know we don't know. 12 sources of false knowledge. I label those pieces 3 to 14. 1 and 2. Number 1, that's the knowledge we don't have. And that would be, if we look at my 3 stages of knowledge, we have false knowledge down here, and the knowledge we need is up here. So that's piece 1 up here, piece 2 right here. Now, in between these boxes, there's a doorway. And inside that doorway, there are obstacles. The biggest obstacle that keeps us starting our journey off in life with false knowledge, where we make the mistakes and end up in hell. I had traditions as the number 1 originally. Again, there's 12 sources of false knowledge and the 7 wellness factors. So once again, 2 forms of ignorance, 19 main reasons, 12 sources for false knowledge, and 7 wellness factors. That's what I've come up with. But then there are pieces within pieces. There's actually a total of 55 total problems of knowledge, and that can be overwhelming. And what's exciting is we don't have to even worry about any of that. We can just test an idea as time has come, and we get out of all of this. And I'll come back to that in a moment. But again, I want you to understand how traditions plays a role, because for the longest time I had it as the number 1 source of false knowledge. And why? Well, I started off by saying we start our life off in the, except I went the wrong way, in the first stage of knowledge with false knowledge. First stage is the knowledge we acquire. We're acquiring the wrong information because of our traditions. We teach our children the same mistakes that were taught to us. And it can happen so fast, so again, we can't go back the way we came. But what we're doing now is different than how it started. So the fall of mankind is something that happened long ago. We did something, but the problem is we're still making it today, and that's why my message is so important for us to understand. Because we can correct it. We can stop making the mistake that's in the second stage of knowledge. We don't want to get confused up into the first stage and then all the doorways. You know, why did we slide down 109 and stop eating our natural diet? No one really knows. And again, at this point, it doesn't really matter because we can't go back that way anyway. We can't slide back up to 109. We got to go up between that doorway, the negative A box of false knowledge up into the plus A box of knowledge. We got to go through that doorway and deal with those obstacles where we have traditions. Again, I've gone over this in more detail. If you go to the Ultimate Solution playlist, 11-part video series, you'll see that I talk about all of the 281 pieces identified in my special tool, which is a map, 2 maps in one. One map to get us out of Plato's cave, another map to bring us back to paradise. And I identified 281 pieces, and the 21 main problems of knowledge are the first 21 pieces to this puzzle. Piece number 1, piece number 2, and then 3 to 21, the 12 sources of false knowledge, 7 witness factors are obstacles that are keeping us from getting up there and finding that knowledge. Traditions is a huge problem of knowledge. It's one of the 2 main ways history repeats itself. The other is that we don't have access to history, especially information that deals with usury, so we don't understand the absolute tool of control. And because of that, now health is used as the ultimate tool of control to keep us sick, so we keep promoting that false knowledge. So in a way, the powers that be have a pretty easy job to keep us down on the wrong path because we want to stay there. There's a lot of problems with knowledge, especially when we look at those willingness factors, addictions, denial, habits. Those are huge, huge, huge. Apathy. We're not willing to entertain this idea. A lot of obstacles ahead of us. So where are we now? Well, false knowledge, mistakes, problems, hell, the dark ages, illnesses, ill behaviors. Even the dark side of our behavior is a symptom. But you say, no, it's what's causing everything. No, it ripples around. It's the number one negative ripple effect we got to deal with. And I often wonder, are we clever enough to overcome this negative ripple effect where we're on this horizontal loop, repeating ourselves tradition after tradition? Remember, traditions, it only takes 1 generation to teach our children to make a mistake. We can reverse that. It only takes 1 generation to teach them to stop making the mistake. That's the whole purpose of my channel. Stop making the mistake, the fall of mankind that's in the 2nd stage of knowledge. Stop going back into the 1st stage and trying to figure out why we slid down to 109. We had knowledge at one time. We knew not to cook our food. Why did we start cooking our food? We can speculate all we want. And I have piece numbers for most of those speculations. And I can add more piece numbers. I haven't identified all the pieces, just the most important ones. But it doesn't matter because that's before what we're doing. If we don't like what we got, you don't treat the symptom. There is no treatment for that. And people make a mistake and say we got to treat the cause. That's a misnomer. There are no treatments for mistakes. In the 2nd stage of knowledge, you got to stop making the mistakes. It's that simple. So, traditions. Stop teaching your children to eat the wrong food. But we find so much comfort in seeing our children make our mistakes. And how do you broach that one, huh? I'm sorry, kids. Didn't know any better. Taught you some bad things. But look at me now. I changed. You need to change too. It's what we need to do. We got to get this movement moving. Our family members should be on board with us, not against us. If you haven't figured out a way to get through to them, you just haven't worked on it long enough. Be challenged by it. Don't be frustrated. Take it on as a challenge. Say, I just haven't figured out a clever enough way to say it. But maybe it's too late, right? You already told them too much. They don't want to hear anymore. They already tune out. Again, that's the problem we face on the hero's journey. 7 out of 16, or 6 out of 17 of my groups that I came up with want to know the truth, but they just can't handle it. They just shut off their brain. Just glide with the stream of the crowd. Don't want to break traditions. And again, for the longest time I had that as my number one source of false knowledge, but not anymore. Because I finally realized that I understand what traditions are, and I'm not alone. Other people understand that traditions represents all of our accumulated wisdom and all of our accumulated mistakes. And when you look at all the great things we have done as a species, and we are amazing, that comes from our accumulated wisdom. But then all the things we don't like, all the negative things, where's that coming from? Those are the mistakes. And again, I've realized we're smart enough to figure that out. And why haven't we been able to do that? Well, that goes back to what I now have as our number one source of false knowledge. And that is the sickest of us. Remember, when we cook our food, we destroy the biophotons. Now we have the most dangerous disease known to mankind. That allows us to eat food we're not biologically adapted to eat. Now we have the most dangerous substance in the world. A cesspool in our bellies, a serpent. And when you look at the most dangerous disease known to mankind and the most dangerous substance in the world, you're looking at two huge contributing factors to the dark side of our behavior. And now what we have is the darkest of the dark side of our behavior. That are keeping us ignorant, that are controlling us. And again, we're easy to control. It's easy to keep telling us what we're doing. It's easy to just keep on with our traditions. But we got to realize where we are is not where we need to be. And we can get back up to where we need to be. So where are we on my special teaching tool? If you've never looked at the ultimate schematic, you need to take a look at this simple teaching tool. It's like a map to help us get out of where we are. I've identified all these pieces. So if you ask yourself, well, where is this at? Well, look on my map and you'll see it's this piece number here. It's over here in this box. Or no, it's over here in this doorway. But what you see with this, it's very simplistic. We are down in the bottom three boxes: false knowledge, mistakes, and problems. We need to make a vertical move, a transformative move, find the knowledge we need, and go through that next doorway where we apply that knowledge. So the first map gets us out of the hell, and the only way we can get out of this cave of ignorance is to find the knowledge we're missing. We don't know how to live. And then once you find it, it's worthless unless you apply it, so you got to go through the next doorway. So in effect, there's only two doorways it takes to get back to where we need to be. How do we get down here? We don't know for sure what we did. We had knowledge, but we made a mistake, so we slid down 109. We make a mistake. There's two main ways to make a mistake. One is to apply false knowledge you think you know, or don't apply what you know. I know not to drink, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's a mistake. So long ago, in the very beginning, we knew we were doing something wrong. We don't know why we went down that way, and it doesn't matter. Don't focus on that. Don't get tricked. We got to find out what is the mistake so we can stop making it. Then once we stop making it, then we'll figure out, hopefully, why it happened, and make sure we don't let that happen again. So once again, where are we? False knowledge, mistakes, hell, the dark ages. Go through the first doorway, find the knowledge we need, apply it. And what's the best thing to do to start this off? Test an idea as time has come. That's piece 54.5. So the easiest way to deal with both those doorways is to test an idea whose time has come. This is where we're willing to apply what we know. When I first came up with these 7 main apathy factors, I realized that we don't have to believe something to apply it. We can test it. So one of the main things I realized we have to do is, once we are willing to look for the information and we're willing to believe it, and the next thing is, well, we got to prove it. We got to accept the mission. And then again, you don't have to believe this to realize it. Do it and you'll understand. So 2 doorways is what we have to do to get back. Can't go back up the 109. That's how we slid down. We don't know why that happened. It doesn't matter. Now we do it with false knowledge. Once we learn better, we find the knowledge, we apply it, then we see the results. We don't have the negative effects anymore. Illnesses, ill behaviors go away. And that's when we realize what would happen if the whole planet woke up to that reality. That's when you start getting excited. Think about it. I mean, that's what motivates me. I've gone through the transformation. I've seen it work with people all around me. And it's so exciting to just look at the average person. In fact, I've probably seen at least a dozen or more people walk by me. And I haven't seen one person who isn't in dire need of it. You do see some fairly fit people exercising, and they look pretty trim still. But remember, your pipes don't have to be bulging, or you don't have to have a bulging belly to have crud inside of them. And that was a pretty good example of having a 31-inch waist and still had a 20-pound cesspool in me. So, two huge contributing factors, my friends, to the dark side of our behavior. Now that's the number one source for false knowledge. Again, we're clever enough to overcome our traditions if it wasn't for this dark side to our behavior. And there's only one way to overcome the dark side of our behavior, is to realize what creates the dark side of our behavior. Cooked food is what creates the dark side of our behavior. Think about it. It destroys the biophotons. Hypoheliosys, that's the most common disease and the most dangerous disease. Why is it the most dangerous? Because it's the most common, and that's the one that takes away one of our senses, and that's what gives us the wrong mentality. Then you've got the most dangerous substance in the world. That's because when we cook our food, we're eating food we're not biologically adapted to eat. It doesn't have the right bowel transit time. We end up having a cesspool inside of our body. Instead of this fast-moving sewage system we're supposed to have, we have a slow, stagnant cesspool that pollutes our blood, that pollutes our brain. And then when the kidneys stop filtering, the lymph system gets polluted. So both of the fluids that help us survive end up polluting us. Auto-intoxication leads to virtually all of our problems, including the dark side of our behavior. So this is really exciting once you understand the big picture. Once you understand that traditions is kind of how things are happening now, mainly. Society attacked early when we were helpless. Basically, every 7-year-old child on this planet knows how to keep making the same mistakes so that hell will continue on if everyone above that age disappeared all of a sudden. It's a horrifying thought, isn't it? We've already taught that to our children, but what's so exciting is we can reverse it just like that. And gosh darn it, when we do that, we're in for a treat.